If you operate a manufacturing plant or a processing plant that's maybe 20, 30, 40 years old, you probably don't even realize how obsolete your electric room is. I'm talking about the vortex, the nerve center, the distribution point of all the energy that infuses and animates all your equipment on your plant. It's an issue, and that's why I'm up here in Sioux Center, Iowa. I'm visiting with Interstates, and specifically I'm talking to Doug Post, who's an electrical engineer. Doug, thanks for joining me on WowBiz TV.
Glad to be here.
You bet. How do we know that this electric, everything's moving, everything's going forward, there haven't been any significant interruptions in plant operations? For that matter, the GM hasn't probably walked into the room for the last year or two, all right? How do we know it's time all of a sudden? Out of the blue, do we get an epiphany or what? How do we know it's an issue right now that we need to be probably funding and doing something with?
Well, and I think you can look at a couple of different things, but if I were a plant manager, I might want to walk down to the electric room, take a look.
Are you stating the obvious now?
That could be. Take a look and seeing if there's documentation that describes the electric room.
Okay.
They might take a look at the actual equipment. And are there arc flash labels on the various pieces of equipment? That would say if they're prepared from a safety point of view. Sometimes you'll find doors open with fans blowing on equipment. That's probably not a good example for where they're at on maintainability.
I was going to say, that's not a good thing, is it?
It's not necessarily a good thing. Yeah, it means things are getting a little overheated.
Okay, all right. Well, let's say, for instance, we're in front of a planning committee or the financial committee of a large company, all right? And they're saying, okay, well, we admit the fact that it is an older room, but we go down there periodically. We have to jigger with a couple things, but come on. We're talking about a fair amount of money here. It really wasn't on the capital budget. Give us a specific strategic view. What are the key things that we should be worried about really before we pull the trigger on this big investment?
I think that's a tough decision. Any plant manager is going to have to work out for himself. But probably the two main things I would look at is, number one is safety. There are a lot of electrical accidents throughout the U.S. every year. For example, each day someone ends up with a serious arc flash related injury.
Is that right?
That I would not want if I was a plant manager.
And those can be, I'm assuming, fairly severe. I don't think I'd want to be around an arc flash in an electric room. Tell me, how can it be debilitating? Can it?
Certainly. There's a number of deaths every year just in the U.S.
Really?
What you're looking at is vaporized copper flying through the air, enough force to throw a man across a room. That's a type of accident that a plant manager can't afford to have.
And that can haunt you. It can haunt your operation. You have...
And the rest of your staff.
Yeah, it can be a really tragic thing. Also, so safety certainly is an issue, and all the ripples that come out of potential accident. What are some other considerations? So he says, all right, there's the occasional danger in a plant. We all know that. What else? What else should we be actually looking at?
The other thing I might do is talk to my maintenance staff and just ask them how maintainable the equipment is. You know, if you're looking at some equipment that was put in the 1970s, 1980s, it's getting older, probably difficult to maintain. And if you find out your maintenance staff is stocking parts by Googling online at night,
why? Is that a bad thing? I mean, because what? The wholesaler or the manufacturer doesn't stock them anymore?
No longer stocks it anymore. That means you're running out of time. It means you're running out of time on keeping your equipment up and running.
Okay, so we got safety, we have maintenance issues. I would also assume that reliability, I guess, would be also maybe a less obvious thing, but insofar as replacing parts
that's a great insight.
Performing.
Maintainability that we talk about ties right into reliability. If you're starting to have to replace parts more and more often, I think that's a leading indicator for you that it's just a matter of time before you're going to have some downtime.
Well, Doug Post out here at Sioux Center, Iowa, I know that you've done this before, you're hands-on as an electrical engineer. What would be some final concerns or final thoughts that you would bring up if you were to have the opportunity to address a group of corporate executives? I mean, is it a matter of conscience? Is it a matter of calculation? Is it a logical or is it an emotional kind of commitment and decision ultimately? What do you think about that?
Well, it's hard. I guess the easy answer there is both. I think if you're responsible for staff out on your job sites, you want to make sure they have a safe working facility.
Of course.
And we're seeing more and more clients own that from a emotional, just a core value point of view, and getting in and either improving the safety of an existing room or retrofitting it to make it a new one from taking care of their staff and minimizing their risk with safety, frankly.
All right.
I think that's probably one of the key concerns. And then also just general maintainability and the impact that we discussed with reliability. We see that happening as well. You can't afford downtime in today's climate, economic climate, and more and more clients are facing those type of situations.
Absolutely. You got to have streamlined, efficient, steady operations so that your revenue can be steady as well.
Yeah, revenue does seem to
fit
be
into the picture as well.
Consideration also.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, Doug, thank you so much. We're out here at Sioux Center, Iowa. This is a great insight, and I had no idea it was such a major trend. You've really elucidated that. So
all right.
Thank you so much, and thanks for watching Wild Biz TV. I'm Lynn Hinderrocker. We'll see you again.